favorite things on MTN means you don't get interrupted even when you are low on airtime or data. Please remember all terms and conditions apply. On Wednesdays, we have the honor of hosting the best doctor in GH, the Drive Doctor, Dr. Yaw Osafo, CEO of Medicas Hospital. Hey, Doc, how you doing, man? Can you guys please turn on this microphone for me? Yeah. Hello, Doc.
Hi, Kwame.
Oh, there
How
you
are
go.
you?
I can hear you. How are you?
Today I can see that you're matching me boot for boot.
Oh, yes. I see that,
like
Charlie. Your African wear game is top notch. So I need to level up.
You need to match up.
So I brought out my Woodin, Le Créateur. I said today they had to go match Dr. Osafo.
Africa
but you
game,
take that thing to another level. Wow, Lo.
It's good to see you, Kwame.
Yeah, good to see you, brother. We've got a very delicate issue to talk about today.
Absolutely.
And it has to do with newborns, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of our good friends sent a very important issue that I thought I should share with you so you can actually take us through some guidance.
Right.
All right, so here we go. Hi, Lexis. My heart is filled with grief instead of joy and happiness, which typically follows the birth of a child. We welcomed our first child 3 months ago. Shortly after the birth, we noticed the baby had developed yellowing of the eyes. The child could vomit and refuse to breastfeed. We went back to our family doctor, who subsequently referred us to a pediatrician at one of the major hospitals in Accra. After extensive investigations, we received the bombshell news that our baby had a rare genetic medical condition which unfortunately had been exacerbated by milk intake. Lexis, all babies like milk or are supposed to take milk, no? Well, I'm deeply worried. As the doctor mentioned, this condition is lifelong. I'm having sleepless nights. I have many questions. Could I have known about this condition earlier? Could I have another baby? Can I cope with caring for this child? I really need help. I need answers. So, Doc.
Wow.
Like I was saying, this is a very delicate issue.
Very, very delicate issue. And good afternoon to all our listeners. It's good to be here another Wednesday. And Kwame, I think we all look forward to the birth of a child. I feel her pain. Unfortunately, sometimes the newborns become ill. We get to find out that they have one form of illness or disease or the other. I think it was last year during that event that Philip always organizes, Philip and Friends, where he reaches out to children. I think last year they visited the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
The cancer unit.
The cancer unit. And Philip was telling me how surprised he was that children can develop cancer. Well, the truth of the matter is children suffer many diseases just as adults do, and even newborns, called neonates. So when we talk about a newborn, we're talking about a baby in the first 28 days of life, strictly speaking. Sometimes they will extend it to the first 2 months or so. But yes, in that age period, you can still identify some problems they are born with, and then problems that come up in that period. And it would appear that is what we're going to talk about today. Newborn screening, it's a very important part of the way we administer healthcare globally. Unfortunately, it hasn't taken off properly in this country, so we do very little of it. So today I want to use this opportunity to shine some light on that aspect of the various healthcare interventions that we have, and also to draw attention to some of these medical conditions that can affect new borns. So when we talk about screening, then what we are trying to do is that we want to identify high-risk populations who are at risk of developing a particular condition. And usually that medical condition is one that is of a very serious nature, life-threatening potentially, and relatively common in the society. We also want those diseases that are reversible that can be treated before irreversible damage happens. So those are the type of things that you want. You don't want to pick out conditions that are not life-threatening, like trivial things. So we have to rank diseases. So Kwame, if you have something that can cause a mental retardation, damage the brain, compared to something that will give you, say, a fever which you can recover from, then I would think that the issue, the one that can cause mental retardation, is much more pressing. But when we begin to describe the effects and the long-term effects of some of these conditions, then you'd know that there is a certain hierarchy of medical conditions. So those are the things that we want to screen for. Newborn screening has been with us for a long time. It started in the 60s, and we have a doctor to thank for that, Dr. Robert Guthrie. And he developed a certain test for identifying amino acid, a particular defect in a particular amino acid. And Kwame, here I want us to go back a little bit, because when we talk about newborn screening, then usually we are talking about medical conditions that are either of genetic nature, but also what we call metabolic in nature. When we talk about metabolism, we're talking about the formation and also the breakdown of certain chemical substances in our body. So this is where those who didn't do quite well in chemistry, they have to maybe sports and I say we're going to do a little bit of chemistry now. So when we talk about formation of chemical compounds, one thing becomes very, very important: an enzyme. So we'll ask you, what is an enzyme? So an enzyme is a chemical substance that is produced usually by the organism that catalyzes a specific biochemical reaction.
What is catalyze?
I mean, I say, I can say primary school, so one call cluster of schools, maybe.
No, I'm asking for Philip.
Philip. Labadi cluster of schools in the early authority. Okay, one for right. Kwame, in simple times, an enzyme is a betweener. Kwame, so in betweener.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Kwame, the dear.
Oh,
a betweener. What they come looking for you if things go south.
Oh, my connected dots be brave.
Hey, Kwame.
And collab be a fumaba. Hey, screening.
Nice. So, Kwame, in simple terms, that's what an enzyme is. So the betweener thing. So you want to bring two people together for something positive to come out of it into a relationship. So that person who sort of like love matches, that's the connection. So that's what enzymes typically do. You've got one molecule A, you've got another molecule B, and you want to bring them together to form D, and the enzyme does that. When you have a problem with the enzymes, then A will sit there and accumulate. B would also sit there and accumulate in the blood, because you cannot go on to form D. If you keep forming D, then the levels of A would constantly be low and you don't build up. The levels of B, because you are using it up, and then you don't accumulate. So that concept is what usually happens with specific and identified molecules. And the first group of molecules that usually give us these problems are called amino acids. So if we think about the 6 food groups, we've got proteins, got carbohydrates, got the fats and oils, and so on, vitamins, minerals, and things like that. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So when we eat and we get food, or we eat food, we get the amino acids, and we use the amino acids as the building blocks for proteins. So you need proteins, what we call structural proteins, to make up your muscles and all of that. You need proteins, for example, to build your immune system. So if you don't have amino acids, it's a problem. So we've got 21 different amino acids Some of them are classified as essential amino acids, and then others are classified as non-essential. The essential ones are the ones that your body cannot make on its own, and therefore you need it in your diet. That's why we call it essential. Okay. The non-essential ones your body can make from by itself. So it's not as if it's not important. Just because you can make it, that's why we call them the non-essential amino acids. When it comes to carbohydrates too, and I think everybody knows about carbohydrates, then we also have the same problems too. See, carbohydrates, we have the complex one, the starch, and then you have the basic carbohydrates, the glucose, and then the galactose. All right? Galactose is milk sugar, meaning the sugar you get in milk. So when you have a problem with an enzyme that breaks down this galactose, then you accumulate the galactose. Most people know about glucose, but glucose ni ne cousin, galactose. Most people probably never heard about it. But anytime you take milk, I want you to know that you are not getting glucose in there directly, but you're getting something we call galactose in there. So it is milk sugar. And Kwame, you must have an enzyme that breaks down this galactose and turns it into something else which you'd use for energy production. Unfortunately, there are some human beings who have a genetic problem such that that enzyme, that betweener, is not there. So what happens is that you end up building up this galactose because the baby is taking in milk.
Okay.
And the milk, which is lactose, you break it down and then you form galactose and then glucose. And the galactose is supposed to be further broken down. But that betweener, that enzyme is not there.
Okay.
And it is not there and it is defective because of a genetic mutation. Something went wrong with the genes. So it's an inherited disorder. The mother who sent us this message and the father, they have a genetic problem. And that leads to a deficiency in that enzyme, that betweener. So this child doesn't have it. But they don't know. So the mother, the general advice we give is that we should initiate breastfeeding within 30 minutes of delivery. Giving the child milk. And then what is happening from that lactose in the milk is broken down and you start accumulating galactose. This builds up and from the blood it overflows. Unfortunately, we all know about dam spillages in this country. When something overflows, Bagre Dam, Burkina Faso, then we feel the effects here. So whenever there is too much of the galactose in the blood, there's a spillover and you start finding this galactose in other parts of the body, other organs that is not supposed to be there.
Okay.
Then it turns into another type of substance and that causes organ damage.
Hey.
It can cause a lot of different problems for that child. One of them is liver failure.
Wow.
And that is why the child or the baby becomes jaundice, develops the yellowing of the eye. So, Kwame, I believe when you were reading the message, it talks about yellowing of the eyes.
Yeah.
The child fails to thrive. Well, so when we say failure to thrive, child is not growing. So this baby must gain some weight every week. You realize that it's not making those weight gains. You also have things like cataracts even developing. They will have speech difficulties later on in life. They may also have kidney disease. And then even they develop something we call premature ovarian failure later on. Their ovaries don't work well for the females. They may have infertility problems and so on and so forth. So it's a whole myriad of medical problems that they develop. But it starts right in that young infant period.
And you say galactose, no? I want to Real Madrid for Galacticos, Nana. Cosmatic Galacticus, but
I don't know a galaxy.
yeah,
I don't know a galaxy. I know they
okay.
want to show that they are. I know. Yeah. Medical. Omuni doctor phobia or.
Okay.
Omuni beside them. It's Galactus. The one was a chemistry, no. Today is purely the chemistry version.
Oh, I'm following.
Drive.
You know, I'm following. I mean, you know.
So you can teach Philip.
We do this all day, every day. It's normal.
And then today is the chemistry version of the National Science and Maths quiz version of Drive Doctor. Right. So, newborn, unfortunately, the mother is not guilty. But I can understand why she feels so bad. That she feels she's contributed to it because she breastfed, the child, introduced milk, to the child. So milk sugar is this problem. And Kwame, this problem, the medical term is galactosemia. Galactosemia. This is the diagnosis the doctor will put down in the book, galactosemia. Meaning you have high levels of milk sugar in the baby's blood.
So at what point can we do this particular screening? Because right after birth, the mother is expected to breastfeed the baby. So at what point do we get to know this?
So that is why we must have a comprehensive newborn screening program in this country. And we will do a part 2 next week, because I want to take the opportunity to talk about other medical conditions, newborn conditions that we can screen for. So you must have a screening program. I know in other parts of the world, it is established. You are born, blood is taken. And there is a list of diseases that you can screen for based on what they see in their jurisdiction. Here we are not looking. And these give very non-specific symptoms. Because if you ask any pediatrician to give you a list of things that can cause a newborn's eye to become yellow, they'll give you a tall list of different things. So these are very non-specific things. If we say failure to thrive, the child is not growing. Kwame, can be a number of different things. So the newborn screening program says at birth, the baby does ngeh, and then we got a filter paper, blotted paper, then they take blood sample. And then we can run a certain number of tests. The equipment and the analytical methods for these tests are quite sophisticated. You need some high-level machines because you are going to determine or detect certain molecules, amino acids and these galactose and all of that. It's not your everyday test that the regular clinical laboratory can test for. But if we have a program, a national program, then we can have centers of excellence where all these specimens, taking dried blood, and you put it in the mail. These days, as for deliveries, we even have drone deliveries. The other time, we heard the vice president extolling the virtues of all these drone deliveries. So we can take zip line. So we can take samples everywhere. It's just that we must have a dedicated program that says that every newborn blood sample is taken, and then we are going to check for these conditions. And Kwame, there are conditions that have dire consequences on the development of children. And for me, I always hurt when a child develops mental retardation because of a medical condition that could have been treated. So, for example, if from day one or in the first week, this mother gets to know that, you know what, you have your child has a very unique genetic medical condition called galactosemia, and therefore avoid milk, dairy products. Then we'll switch to soy-based milk. For the newborn. Then we avoid all this Real Madrid Galacticos problem.
That's all.
That's all. It's very, very simple. Avoid dairy products. Throughout the lifetime of the child, of this human being. It's a child one moment, will become a teenager, becomes an adult. But if we find out late, when the galactose has built up, not only in the blood, but in different organs like the brain, the kidney, the ovaries, then the damage has already been done. And the damage is irreversible. When the child has speech difficulties, the child has motor difficulties, it's not walking, it's not talking at the time it's supposed to talk, IQ is very low compared to their colleagues, then we give the child another label, say a child with special needs. But all of this could have been avoided if we have a testing program and then we say, you know what, avoid milk. Next week I'll talk about another condition where you have to avoid certain proteins. Because that one, the problem is not a carbohydrate. The problem is accumulation of a particular protein or amino acid, to be more specific. So we'll get you to see a dietitian, and then the dietitian will put the newborn on a low protein diet. You avoid the formula preparations that have high levels of that particular protein in there, and we avoid a lot of the disastrous consequences. Next week we'll talk about thyroid, for example, where when we screen, we realize that a particular child does not have high levels of a thyroid hormone. Then we introduce the thyroid hormone so that this child doesn't develop all of the physical and mental challenges that come with hypothyroidism. We'll talk about sickle cell, for example, which is also another genetic disease that we can screen for. So the newborn screening program, and this is Joy FM, so I know that the duty bearers in the Ministry of Health, they are listening.
Yeah.
We need to have a proper, well-established newborn screening, because we have the people. Let me borrow we have the men especially. And when it comes to the healthcare, we have the men. To the pediatricians, we know about this. We've got medical laboratory scientists, we've got chemical pathologists in this country who can run a very efficient laboratory testing program. I mean, we've got Noguchi.
Yeah.
Noguchi for no. Yes. We've got that West African Biology Center and all of that. I mean, when COVID came, we've got KCCR in Kumasi, as well. So when it comes to testing, we've got the men. As for this one is not politics. I mean, medicine, we've got the men, to do the job. But now, how about the system that would say every newborn gets a blood sample taken? That blood sample is transported, it's worked on, and then you get a certain response that goes to your doctor. And then we've got a public health system that will do the traceability, trace and find out, that newborn was delivered at Medical Hospital in Mampong or Ashrease, and we can follow up and then tell them that, this is the test result. It shows galactosemia. We put you in touch with the child healthcare unit, and it's done. So it's the system that is lacking. Okay. It's not the technical aspects of it. So this is galactosemia for our friend. She can be helped. She can reach out to us, and we would give them tips about how to go about handling this newborn.
I'm sure a lot of people also have very, pertinent concerns about newborn screening and would want to reach out. How can they do that?
Right. So they can reach out. The number is 0501 477 340. So they can reach out to us. That's our medical's WhatsApp line, hotline as well, 0501 477 340. You can also go to your family doctor and just have a chat with them about newborn. And Kwame, remember that we talked about I want to make babies. And we started the preconception care, conversation. This is part of the things we discuss during the preconception care, that there's the possibility for you to do prenatal and perinatal screening. So if you talk to your doctor, your family doctor about it, they can give you some pointers.
Okay.
But they should reach out to us, and we will be able to give them good enough information about newborn screening. It's one of the things that we are looking to roll out at medical hospitals, especially when we roll out, we finally get to open our East Legon Hills branch. We'll be rolling out a newborn screening program there at that new branch when we finally open, hopefully at the end of March. So Kwame, there you have it. Next week I will talk about another newborn disease, which is unfortunately very common in our environment as well. Kwame, this week I met somebody,
Okay.
ardent listener,
Okay.
loves you. He's a fan. He was like, oh, Dr. Osafo, you need to let Kwame know that I listened to him and I absolutely love him. So I know he's listening.
Oh, nice.
Koku Dachumo.
Oh, nice.
He lives in Nungwa.
Nice.
I think it is it Adegono,
Right.
suburb of Nungwa. He's an ardent listener.
Hey,
he
Koku.
loves this show, and he wants you to say hi to him.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm glad you shared this with me. Koku, nice to know. And hopefully you might want to come by sometime so we connect, yeah? Thank you
Right.
so much for staying tuned in. And thank you so much, Doc, for delivering the message as well. And thank you for this
You're welcome.
very incredible conversation that we had. I got a message from Evergreen who says she's grateful that we are talking about this newborn screening conversation. So, God willing, next week when Doctor is back, we continue the conversation right here on Joy 99.7 FM. Dr. Yaw Osafo is the CEO of Medicas Hospital in Mampong and Medina Firestone. And like he mentioned, there's a new branch coming up at East Legon Hills. And when he's ready, he will let us know so we can come there and see the Galacticus.